I'm Jarrett Waite, filling in for Mayor Rosenberg. He is not available today, so I get to fill in for him as the Mayor Pro Tem. We do have a full council with us today. We have Councilman Wendell Gubler, Councilman Denny Drake, Councilwoman Lena Mathis, and Councilman Ben Shakespeare. We have asked Wendell Gubler to do our opening ceremony, our Pledge of Allegiance and opening comments. We'll do that now.
Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our dear Father in heaven, we're grateful this evening for the opportunity of being here and attending the City Council meeting. We're grateful for our staff, people who work for the city, that they do such a wonderful job in making this a pleasant place for us to live. We ask that thou would be with them and help them in their duties and responsibilities. We're thankful for the good citizens of this city. We ask that thou would bless them. Help us that we might be mindful of their desires. We might do things that they would desire to have done to make this city a better place to live. Thankful for all that we have. And we say this in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Wendell. All right, we'll move into our item number 3, our communications and appearances. And I do have a yellow paper here. Sarah Western, are you ready to talk to the council? Oh, it is. Okay, on item C2. Oh, perfect. Yes. Okay, excellent. We'll save that until that point. All right. Time for item number 4, conflicts and disclosures. Council, anyone need to disclose anything for anything on the agenda today? Okay, excellent. We'll move on then to our working agenda. Item 5A is public hearings. We don't have any today. So we'll move into our consent agenda, which is 5B. We have our number 1 is approval of claims and minutes, the September 9th, 2020 regular city council meeting minutes, September 9th, 2020 executive session minutes, and claims for September 23rd, 2020. And then also item number 2 is our calendar of events. October 7th is our upcoming city council work meeting. October 14th is our regular city council meeting, and also on the 28th, the regular city council meeting. Council, I look for a motion on the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Ben, a second by Lena. Any discussion on that? Okay, it's a money item, so we'll go in order. Let's start with Wendell.
Aye.
Denny?
Aye.
Lena?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
And I'm also an aye. So that passes unanimously. Okay, we'll move on to item C, our general business. And our number 1 is our Intermountain Healthcare Update presented by Mitch Cloward. We want to welcome the representatives from the hospital.
Really appreciate the opportunity to share an annual update about our hospital. This is Brian Chada as our board chair at the hospital, and we'll hear from him in just a moment. But well, hi, just a few things happening over at the hospital. There's a lot, but we're very happy about some national recognition from U.S. News and World Report that rated us as one of the best regional hospitals in the country in the state of Utah in providing cutting edge, leading edge healthcare services. We are one of the largest trauma centers in the state of Utah. Now we care for a lot of people in Arizona and Nevada and across the country with our proximity to national parks, and with precision medicine, we care for patients across the world. So we're on the national stage with recruiting scientists and physicians to provide world-class healthcare here in St. George. And in harmony with that, we believe that St. George is a better depictor of where we are geographically and will connect with more people across the country and across the globe than Dixie. People think we're in Alabama. And so we think that people connect with St. George across the country and across the world. As a brand name recognition that helps us grow and expand our services nationally and globally. So our mission is centered around people. We want to help people live the healthiest lives possible. So, Lena, Lena knows something about our board of trustees. She served on our board for, she just told me, 12 years. She's seen a lot of change over at our hospital. She served on committees. She devoted a lot of time to our hospital. And we're grateful for her for that service. But I'm going to let Brian talk a little bit about the purpose of our board and some of the members on it.
Thank you, Mitch, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to say just a few things about the hospital. We think the hospital, well, I know that the hospital has a great relationship with the communities that it serves. I think the hospital appreciates the communities, and I think the people in the communities appreciate the hospital. I know when the hospital has some significant capital projects, the citizens step up and contribute substantially towards that so that we can fund some of the margins and do some things here that we couldn't do otherwise. So it's a great symbiotic relationship that we have. I'm privileged to work with Mitch. I want to let you know that something you already probably perceive, and he is very committed to his job, has a passion for his work, and it shows. Even though Dixie Regional Medical Center, as Mitch says, soon to be St. George Regional Hospital, is one of the very largest hospitals within the Intermountain system. The patients that go there get personal treatment. So it's a real trick when you can be large, but still have people feel like they're getting special treatment. As a board member, have the opportunity to get a lot of feedback both ways from the community as a liaison with the community. And a large majority of the comments we get are favorable, that they have had a good experience. And we are privileged to have the level of services that we do here in this area. I'm convinced that this area would not be what it is without the hospital. Some of the real estate developments and things such as this wouldn't be what they are if there was not the hospital here supporting and helping people feel confident about moving and settling down in this area. Hospital is a tough entity to manage. We have a lot of talent at the hospital with our management team and our doctors and nurses, and it's a pleasure to be associated with them. As you can see here, our board, I think we have a great board. We really try to get a diverse board relative to experience, background, expertise, and of course, a commitment to the community and some geographic diversification so that we can well represent the community. But some good individuals, I think an effective board and an effective hospital, and thanks for letting us brag a little bit.
All right, thank you, Brian. We want to continue to provide cutting-edge, leading-edge healthcare services. So this is Dr. Blake Gardner, our leading cardiologist at the hospital. And there are patients, about 3 million people across the country are diagnosed with atrial fibrillation, or more commonly referred to as AFib. It's an irregular heart rhythm. And so that can lead to blood clots and stroke and heart failure, other conditions. And so we're really focused on that at our hospital. The most cutting edge procedure for that is what's called the Watchman device. So they can implant this device in your heart. And what it does is it replaces the need to take a blood thinner. So taking a blood thinner is not very convenient or fun. And so there are patients with AFib that qualify for this latest device that can be implanted in your heart, and you don't have to take blood thinner medication anymore. So Ray Lewis was our first patient who lives down at Beaver Dam to receive that treatment and is doing very well. So it's important for us to remain innovative and be on the leading edge of medicine nationally and across the globe. We're doing that. It's really interesting to see subspecialization in the hospital. So we have physicians now that are called cardiovascular hospitalists, and all they do is care for heart patients in the hospital. They have no outpatient practice. They have no practice outside the hospital. All they do is care for patients who have heart conditions in our hospital. That is cutting edge. 24/7, they're there to care just for heart patients in our hospital. And likewise, we have pediatricians now that all they do, they don't have an outpatient practice. All they do is care for patients, pediatric patients, small kids who are in our hospital. We provide great spine care at our hospital, and so we have a national contract that will be bringing people from all over the country to our hospital for spine care, including spine surgery. And so that's a result of our high quality and low cost outcomes there in providing back care. Hereditary population study, you all could go over to the hospital now and have some blood drawn, sign a consent, and participate in a study that allows your genes to be sequenced. The Human Genome Project took 10 years and $3 billion. We can sequence a person's genes now in a couple of days for free. And what we do with that information, this is the future of medicine, is we're trying to identify right now heart conditions or cancer conditions that we can detect and prevent from ever manifesting themselves. So we're trying to get ahead of disease. And by sequencing a person's genes, we can identify what they have predispositions for. And we can target strategies to help even prevent that disease from manifesting itself. So that saves a lot of money, a lot of cost, and a lot of lives is where we're focused. We believe that care should be accessible 24/7, no matter where you are. And we have Connect Care. You can connect with a provider on the phone 24/7, and it's a very reasonable cost. We are very active in the community. We have a partnership with Dixie State University around sports medicine. So what we're trying to do there is donate money to build a sports medicine clinic on their campus. And that's a nice partnership. We're able to contribute to that. So we have athletic trainers, orthopedic surgeons, a group of healthcare professionals that care for those student athletes. And so we've partnered with Dixie State for 10 years now. We're grateful for that partnership. We continue to grow. Our Sunset Clinic is very, very busy. And just so that you're aware, you don't have to be a patient there for this, but the annual flu shot is available. That doesn't include the coronavirus, but that vaccine's still not available. But for the regular flu, we have those that are going to be occurring from October 1st to November 30th, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So if you want a flu shot, stop by for that. We do bill insurance for that too. We're also growing, creating a clinic like the Sunset Clinic here in Washington Field, about the same size because of the growth out in that community. And we're also expanding healthcare services in Herc and are planning to do so there as well. So we see growth across the entire county, and cities continue to invite us to have a presence and expand our services, which we're grateful for there. Before I open it up to questions, I just wanted you all to know that I'm a citizen of this wonderful, awesome Santa Clara. And I love living here. I love everything about Santa Clara. And I just want to thank all of you for your service to protect what we have here. And I'm proud to be involved in helping our community, with healthcare issues. And I'm proud to live in Santa Clara. So any questions for Brian and I about our hospital or healthcare services generally?
I may just resonate what Brian said about what the hospital's done for our community.
Yeah.
Just hearing that from people moving in, they're coming from all over the world. And the hospital is probably number one, the airport being number two reason that they can be here for the facility you have. So we are extremely blessed and grateful to have what's over there. I was there yesterday, I got a CT scan, and I was there probably 5 minutes to do it. So it was great.
One comment I heard the other day is when you're younger, when you check out a community, number one thing on your list is how's the education? What kind of education my kid's going to get? As you get a little older, that switches. What's number one on the list on many people's lists? What is the healthcare like? So that is very important to have a great medical system in our community.
Thanks, Ben.
As a participant in the cardiovascular,
Yeah.
I want you to know how much we appreciate the quality of what we have here. I'm sure if you would take a cross section of those moving into the area, that question that you just suggested is asked is answered by those that live here saying, yes, we have the best quality health care in the country, and due to the IHC partnership with the cities and local people in doing what needs to be done, and we appreciate that.
Thank you, Danny. Yeah.
I noticed that Governor Herbert moved Utah County back to the orange status. Where do we fit as far as COVID and
Yeah, I can.
how are we doing down here?
So it's a smaller percentage of the population that actually needs hospitalized care for COVID. So what we're seeing, I think a couple of months ago, we were averaging about, 25 patients a day in our hospital with COVID and needed hospitalized care. Before school started, we dropped down to about 7 or 8. And we were pretty encouraged by that trend. Now we're back up to 17, 18 patients a day. We hope that's a short-lived trend. We're all tired of this. Every one of us, right? And so we hope that it's just a blip and doesn't continue, but we're watching it very closely. We want this to go away. Yeah.
I've got a question for
Yeah.
you, Mitch. Thank you all. Having served on the hospital board, I know how dedicated you all are, and
Thank you.
I appreciate it. It's a lot of work. Terry, you as well. Question, the Sunset Clinic.
Yeah.
Is there any talk or forethought in expanding that clinic? Have you got space to maybe expand it as this west side of the
Yeah, we
area grows?
we have 5 acres there, and we have one more opportunity to expand. What we'll do instead is we'll start looking for land in other areas of the county where we can continue to provide convenient, close healthcare. So we've got one more opportunity to expand this clinic, and but Lena, what we're going to do is maybe we should start looking at Ivans and other areas of the county where we see more growth, but we'll just want to be no more than 10, 15 minutes away from every community here. So we own land in the south part of town by Sun River. And we own land in Washington. We're building a clinic in Little Valley there. We're looking at the demographics here, figure out where we should be purchasing land for future growth. So I think one more expansion plus new areas for new clinics is our strategy. Yeah.
And I just have one quick one.
Yeah.
So my brother-in-law is a pharmacist over at the hospital and
Uh-huh.
really enjoys his job. And he told me that there's been an effort to not put people on ventilators and instead just put them on oxygen because it
Yeah.
makes the recovery rate
Yeah.
so much better.
Yeah.
How's that going?
Very well. So what even the physicians within healthcare, we're early on, especially, we were trying to figure out what's the best treatment protocol for these patients. So there, a lot of them are just going to the ICU, and those that really having difficulty breathing put on ventilators. That's not a good prognosis. Isn't good when you get on a ventilator. So treatments have advanced, and most of our patients are not on ventilators. So they're on another floor in the hospital rather than ICU, and so oxygenation is a big part of that, and it's working really well. So really the sickest of the sick would end up in the ICU on a ventilator now, and I think 2 to 3 a day of the ones that we have are probably in the ICU. The most are on other floors with other treatments. So there's been an evolution in how we care for these patients that's more effective. We still don't want it. None of us want it, trust me. And the risk is that our seniors are highly vulnerable, right? And so the spread has been between the ages of 15 and 24 lately. And so these young kids are likely going to be able to make it through that, or younger people are, but when they're around elderly people, we get very concerned. They are very vulnerable, and we don't want them in the ICU on ventilators. That's where we're focused too. So treatment has definitely advanced with it. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Anything else, council?
Thank you so much for your time and your service.
Okay, thank you. All right, move on to our next item, C2, which is consider approval of a proposed amendment to Title 17, Section 17.66.040 to require a building elevation drawing as part of the site plan process in a standard commercial zone and approve ordinance 2020-13. Bob or Corey, are you going to present this?
Yes, I'll try and cover this. So in the standard commercial zone, the ordinance currently requires that an applicant submit a site plan to the city for review by the Planning Commission. What this proposal would do is add, in addition to the site plan, require a building elevation. So when an applicant in a standard commercial zone comes to the city planning commission, they would have to have the site plan
plus a building elevation sketch, similar to some what we have in the PD commercial zone requirement. When you look at the zoning map, nearly all of the commercial property that's currently zoned commercial is PD commercial. Corey and I were just looking at the map. There looks like there's about 3 vacant properties that are just zoned standard commercial. But one of them is fairly large. And anyway, the Planning Commission felt it would be beneficial to have a chance to look at the building elevation drawing. So the ordinance in front of you, again, it's pretty simple. It was actually the first go around had a little more to it, and based on comments that we received at TRC, it was scaled back. We had some design recommendations and all, and the comments were, well, let's not to limit creativity. So it's back to this simple. You can see it says site plan, and then we've added and building elevations approval. A site plan along with building elevations shall be submitted, drawn to scale, and of sufficient size and detail to show the building appearance and location, yard setbacks, ingress, egress, et cetera, et cetera. So then in paragraph number 2, the main additional sentence in paragraph number 2, if you can see it, it's on the screen, but it says the building elevations plan shall show and describe the exterior building materials and colors, including roof materials and exterior appearance for all sides of a proposed building. And number 3 is the existing language. The last paragraph there says the Planning Commission shall review and approve all plans prior to the issuance of any building permit or site improvement or construction permit for utility systems and building construction. So it's pretty simple amendment to the commercial zone. Obviously, we were just adding a couple of phrases. Here's the other thing that, as you know, we are working on revisions to the PD chapter, right? That's come before the Planning Commission twice. I think it's come before the council once or twice, and it's still being massaged. That has more detailed design, but even at the last meeting, there was comments, and Jared, you had suggested that there be more in that, and so we've added in the current draft, and the attorneys are still, I think, working on it, but it could be on your next agenda. So anyway, just not to confuse the two, the PD zone is still, and that's a little more detailed, has more recommendations in regarding design, but at this point, the feeling's been was on the standard commercial to just require the site plan and kind of leave it at that. So Planning Commission has recommended approval. I don't know if you have any questions.
I think I would just ask, like, what kind of teeth does this provide to the Planning Commission? Like, if they don't like what's on there, can they say anything? Is it just a comment, or is this just to make sure if nothing slips by the Planning Commission, or?
Well, that's an excellent question. And on a property that's already zoned commercial, like I said, there's 3. There's 2 fairly small parcels and 1 pretty good sized parcel out on the east commercial area there. If it's already zoned commercial, it's a good question, and the Planning Commission, I think, if they didn't like it, they could request that they bring back. They could table it and say, well, can you do this, this, and this? They may be asking for a cooperation instead of, saying by the force of the code. But a lot of people, I think most applicants want to satisfy the city, and they want to, so if they got recommendations, I think that would mean something to most of them. If the property was vacant, not vacant, but not zoned commercials, for example, it was residential and they were asking for a standard commercial zone, then that's a little different ballgame, because as the attorneys have told us, the zoning action is what they call legislative action, and there's no compelling the city to change the zone. So if they were asking for a standard commercial zone and they didn't like the look of the building, they could turn that request down. And the courts, give cities broad discretion as long as they're not acting, out of acting totally crazy. So I think that the issue is a little bit, and this came up a little bit at the Planning Commission, and Devin kind of said that if it was already zoned commercial, we may not have great power to deny it, but it could be tabled, and you could make a request, et cetera, which is a little different than the PD commercial right now, because PD commercial, there are already some design standards in that chapter. And again, in the PD, in the standard commercial, there are no design recommendations.
Bob, where does the TRC meeting come in this particular process?
Well, that is the staff meeting that's
Right.
held every Thursday.
I understand that. So
Yeah.
do
So
they
this-
bring their site plan to TRC
First.
with the building design?
Yes, typically, right.
And not get recommendations from the staff as to what they need to do?
They would get recommendations. Yes. And I think at that point, most of the applicants, try and follow those. But so yes, the TRC is the first
Step in the
step.
process?
Dollar General was a good example of, he got recommendations from the staff, and, in terms of color and whatever, they immediately said, yeah, we'll do that. Some of them, don't want to do it. Some of them, want to argue something and bring it, and then it comes to the Planning Commission before the council. I think, anyway, I think where the Planning Commission or the council makes a request to change something, most of them will strongly consider it.
Okay, very good. Council, any other questions for Bob or Corey? Okay, we do have one citizen comment from Sarah Weston. Do- Okay, very good. So the question's been answered, so we won't worry about that. Very good. All right, any discussion, council members? Anything you want to talk about this?
I think to answer, maybe comment on what you brought up, Jarrett, was in reading this, it does, again, I don't know in a commercial zone how much teeth it gives, other than it allows the Planning Commission and staff to look at it. My concern on both sides of this is, in dealing with design review committees in the county, you throw, 5 councilmen, 5 or 6 staff, Planning Commission, everyone's got a different opinion on how that looks. And so I guess I urge a little caution in as we go through. Again, I think most applicants are certainly trying to do us right. But again, if we brought up an elevation, I think we would all have a different opinion on what looked good and what we liked. And I think we need to be cautious in as I hear, well, we could table something to, certainly could, but if things are met, and certainly if it's already zoned commercial and it's been that way, again, we're talking 3 properties in this that don't fall into this. And I would imagine most applicants are going to be fine. But again, I think it is simply to give us the ability to look at it. I've sat here and thought about this on a project that was just built, and we've talked about siding and that, and went, okay, if that would have come in as an elevation in that, what could we have done? We would have maybe not liked it, but under the guidelines, it's allowed, and certainly they could do that. And so that would just be my comment on that. I think as we meet with Planning Commission and discuss that, I think there's an intent, what we all want to see in the city, and how we get to that is probably a little different. So.
Well, and I think the intent is different. If we wanted to have control, per se, put that in quotes, over design standards, we'd put it in a PD commercial zone. So I think this is just a way to look at the elevations. And that's really all we're doing, just so we know what the intent of the builder or developer is to go into the project. Whereas before, we didn't have anything to look at elevations,
Right,
right?
yeah.
And so in the process, if the builder, developer, whomever, that does not agree with the planning commission's decision, we still have the option of the city council reviewing it.
Well, that is a good question. I'm trying to think through other sections of the code if it gives them the right to appeal to the council.
So the concern I have as a recommending body being the final decision, but the elected officials are the ones that are actively involved with the people. And
Yeah.
we're the ones that get removed when we do something wrong.
Right.
And the recommending body is an appointed body. To me, the decision-making should be left to the elected officials with the recommendation from that body.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think if something like that exists in the code, and I can't tell, but obviously we could add a sentence to this, Councilman, under number 3, where it says planning commission shall review and approve, et cetera. We could add where the applicant is dissatisfied with the decision of the planning commission, they have the right to appeal it to the city council.
I believe that already exists.
That may exist.
I think that may
Under land
already
use,
be in there. Again,
yeah, under land use authority, I think that might be.
I think that's,
Yeah, I think any decision by the land use authority is able to appeal to the city council, but I don't think we ought to make an ordinance that doesn't comply with that same.
Yeah.
and I think this is just simply modifying what we have. What this is simply doing is giving the technical review committee and the planning commission the ability to see elevations coming before them. But you're right. I think that ability, if an applicant, I think that appeals, I don't have it in front of me, but I think if any applicant feels like they've been mistreated, I guess, for lack of words, I think on anything, they have the ability to appeal to this group, but I wouldn't have that in front of me, but we certainly.
I just found the section. Yeah. In fact, let me read it. It's in the appealing a land use authority's decision. So in chapter 16, in some minor cases, the city staff is the land use authority, right? Planning commission has a number of delegations where they're the land use authority, and then the council has theirs. But in chapter 16.050, it says appealing a land use authority's decision. Is any person adversely affected by the land use authority's decision in administering or interpreting a land use ordinance may appeal that decision to the city council by alleging that there is an error in any order, requirement, decision, or determination made by the land use authority, et cetera. So city council shall hear and decide appeals from administrative decisions in applying the zoning or subdivision ordinance. I think that's the section right there. It says they can appeal it to the council.
So in my mind, we need to make sure that our ordinance that we're passing reflects that also.
Yeah, I don't think there'd be any conflict because right now these site plans go to the planning commission. We're not changing that. And this paragraph says that anybody who's disaffected or disagrees with their decision can appeal it to the council.
Yeah, and I think the planning commission does a great job for us. And that recommendation, and as a body, we need that help. And so, but in answering to the electorate, I think the council is the one that needs to make that decision. So
Bob, is there a reason why this amendment has come forward? Is it something that has been a problem in the past that the planning commission has got a problem with?
Well, the planning commission requested it. I can't remember if it's requested by the council or not. I don't remember the history. Part of it, I think, came out of the construction of the Jim's RV. There was some blowback as the public saw it. The planning commission said, we didn't think it was going to be just a metal exterior, blah, blah, blah. And, nobody's, we didn't review it. We listened to the applicant describe what it was going to look like. And maybe some people thought there was going to be some stucco or brick or stone a little bit on the front. And so I think this came out of partly a result of that, where planning commission wanted to see what the building was going to look like.
Okay, council, appreciate the comments that have been given. Anything else, or I look for a motion?
I would move that we approve the amendment with that stipulation that we add a sentence that makes it agreeable with the ordinance that we have in place.
And Councilman, what we can do, we'll simply maybe just say any person dissatisfied with the decision may appeal as per 1716.050, which already covers that appeal right.
Right.
Okay, we have a motion by Denny. Is there a second out there?
I'll second, but we can have a discussion.
All right, so I have a
Later we'll-
motion to approve as presented with the addition of the sentence that, do you want to repeat it real quick? What your,
We have a
was in the
discussion
motion?
on it real quick, because I don't think that needs to be put in there. I think it's already in there. It's already in the chapter before, that they've already got their ability to. I guess that's where I'd like to, again, I made the second. I'm fine with what's in there, but the language is already in the code.
so go back.
So do you want to
Denny.
make a friendly amendment? Is that what you'd like?
I'd like you to amend it to just not add that, because it already exists in there.
Do you feel like it does tie back to that?
Yes, it applies to everything in the code. I mean, that chapter references everything in the zoning ordinance, and anything where the planning commission is delegated as land use authority, that decision can be appealed to the city council.
Then I would remove that stipulation.
All right, so we have an amendment to not add that line.
I'll second that.
We have a second. So motion by Denny, second by Ben. Any discussion on that motion now? Okay, let's do a roll call. We'll start with Ben,
Aye.
Lena.
Aye.
I'll be an aye.
Aye.
Benny? And okay, that passes unanimously. Thank you, council. All right, we'll move on to our next item, which is number 6, reports, our mayor and council reports. Let's start on that end. We'll start with Wendell.
I have nothing to report.
Okay,
Can I ask, I've been asked a couple questions, and I don't know if Brock, this goes to you, or if Wendell, it goes to you. So I'll ask since it's your report. For the solid waste on recycling, I've had a half a dozen people call me and say, I've opted out. I've got no confirmation that I've opted out. That's their first concern. And then the second concern is, I've opted out. Is somebody going to pick up my can, or do I have to do something with my can?
All right. Wendell, you want to take a crack at it, or you want me to?
Somebody will pick up the can, yes, but I'm not sure what process there is as far as letting them know that they received, confirming that they received the opt-out.
Yeah, the best I could say on the opt-out, if they want a confirmation, if they went on the website, filled out the information, they could call to the city office, I believe, and talk with Sherry and see the information she has. She's
Just to
received
make
it.
sure that it's
Mhm.
there.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I believe that, the county, the solid waste will pick up
And
all those that have
somebody
opted
from the
out.
solid waste will notify them by email, or we'll put something on our website, or we have no idea.
I haven't seen anything from the solid waste as to how and
Okay.
when exactly that will take place, but I'm assuming not till January roughly when the new recycling,
Okay.
February when it kicks off.
Okay.
So that form is our form, correct, on our website? They're filling out? Go to
Yes, it was.
bluecat.org and it comes back to our website, right?
Yeah, it comes to us because we collect all the information and pass it on to the solid waste.
It's kind of more a question for Christelle,
Yeah.
right?
I was gonna say, if you guys want, I can, it's because they're sending the form in through the website and then that automatically goes to the utility department and they do it inside the utility. But what I could do is have an automatic email shoot back to them after they fill out the form, just confirming the information, if that would help.
I think that'd be a great, like I say, I've taken a half a dozen text messages, phone calls saying, I submitted this, but I didn't get anything to say it's done. Do I have to call
Okay.
somebody?
Yeah, I'll
It'd
just-
save the city,
I'll just
staff
add
from
that
getting
to the
phone
form.
calls.
Okay, excellent. That'll work. Or anything else, Wendell? Okay, excellent. Denny?
I have nothing.
All right, making it easy on us. Lena?
I have nothing other than I did attend League of Cities and Towns today's and it was fabulous. So in the context of my one room in my house, but it was fabulous. Learned a lot. So, other than that, I have nothing.
Okay, Ben?
This has nothing to do with my assignments, but Dixie State did their 5-year, just going over their last 5-year plan and have exceeded all goals they had set within that plan. So just to follow up with the hospital there, the college, the way they're growing, the way the hospital's growing, we've got some really good things happening in the community. So
Are they putting the new scoreboard in? I saw the old scoreboard was gone.
I don't know. I listened to, I know that'll be coming though, because the
Well, the old one's
plans for the
gone.
stadium expansion are coming out next month. So, but it was pleasant to hear that. I mean, they're growing. What are there? Just 2 universities statewide, 2 or 3 that are growing, and they're one of them. And I think they're the top. So, but anyway, other than that, I don't have any report.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Ben. I just have a couple things to report. So I met with Brock and several city staff members with a company that does security cameras. We're kind of getting back into that, trying to get that figured out. And this was kind of the Cadillac of security cameras, I would say. It does, where you can like type in blue shirt, male, and it'll pull up every time the cameras have seen that. So the security company was saying that could be used for contact tracing, so you could use CARES Act funding for this whole system. So I think we're still kind of mulling on if that would work or not. But so we're looking at that, and then but that is a little more expensive than the other bids. So the staff has to kind of look at, do we need the Cadillac? Do we want something in between? Do we need a Corolla? What's the right mix for our security cameras? And the trick is this system that came is kind of the new way of doing security cameras. So there isn't any centralized recording on site. It's all just done in the cloud. So that's very different. So we'll have to see kind of how that suss's out. But I think we will bring in the previous bids and kind of see how they compare and then have something for the council on that. And then I also attended the league meetings today, and I went to the open mic about COVID-19 best practices and just wanted to share a couple of things that stuck out to me from that. So basically the presenter just asked different city members to just chime in of like how it's going and what they're doing. And so like Richfield remodeled their police department with CARES Act funding. They put up more barriers in between the officers and made a little waiting area for people so they could be separated. And then they also converted everything in their city hall to touchless that could be converted to touchless. So the paper towel dispensers and the soap dispensers and even like doors that open, we don't have to touch anything. So I thought that was kind of interesting, and we could probably do some of that. And then Holiday they bought 2,000 cotton masks, I think in different sizes, and had like drive up to City Hall one day or a park or something and give them away to the community. And she said they had a really good response, especially from parents with kids going back to school, that they'd have a few more options of masks they could wash and wear. So I think that would be another good idea if we could do that. And then just so you know, I've talked to Brock and had a discussion about how to spend our CARES Act funding. I think we could get up to like $700,000. It's quite a bit of money. And we spent some of that already on improving our teleconferencing options. And we bought lots of PPE. But I did ask him to kind of look into if there's any sort of business grants we could do. And then in the meeting today, they even talked about you can do grants to your residents that have been affected by COVID. So you can't pay their utility bills for them, but you can give them money and they can come back and pay their utility bills. So anyways, lots of options there. It just kind of depends on how we want to spend that money. And I think the trick is like the league won't even tell us if you can do that or not. It's basically ask the treasury or just go off the guidance they've given you, and then you're kind of stuck holding the bag. That's kind of where we are with the security cameras. Like, do we really think that's justified or not? And are we willing to take the budget hit in the future if the Treasury Department comes back and says, well, you shouldn't have spent it that way? So that's kind of the trick with that funding, but it is a lot of money.
Yeah, and that is the guidance is so vague. You know, we got information from a Treasury, like a secretary in the Treasury saying, yeah, you could use it for your frontline workers, public safety, public health. And so a lot of the cities said, well, we're going to use them for our fire and EMS frontline because things have shifted on how they deal with people. Well, shortly after that, the state, I take it the state got wind because then they went to the Treasury and then they came back and said, no, you can't do that. Then the next day they came out, well, you can, but you have to document that they've substantially changed. But they give no clarification on what does substantially changed mean. And one of them, the secretary in the Treasury says, we're not going to ask you for that because we're assuming it has. Their roles have changed in how they're doing things. I mean, I know it's changed for public safety for our fire and EMS when they go out to deal with people. It's like they try to kind of hazmat, everything on, which is different than what they had done previously. So things have changed, but what are they really looking for? They give you no guidance as to what kind of documentation you need to give. So we're still looking at possibly using some of that CARES Act funding for our fire and EMS personnel's wages and benefits, which they have said, there's a number of cities who have said they are going to do that. But so, yeah, guidance is very, very gray.
I say we buy 2 backhoes and a fire engine.
I think just a
Right?
fire engine would take up all that.
There we go. There we go.
That's what the fire engine took it all though.
Because
nothing's cheap there.
Because we care. 2 backhoes, one ladder truck, and we're good. Chief, what do you guys need?
Do you want a siren on the back?
That's right. And then pay off our building.
Very good. So yeah, so I think staff will keep kind of mulling through that, but any guidance you want to give staff on that, council, I think would be helpful. I'm definitely a fan of helping our local businesses. We don't want anyone to go out of business because of COVID. So it wouldn't be a lot of money, but you'd offer $5,000 or $10,000 to local businesses that can prove their sales were down because of COVID. And I don't think it'd be anything super tricky, but we'll kind of just see how that goes. All right, and that's all I have to report. Staff, anything you want to address real quick that council needs to know? Anything out there?
Jack, do you want to?
No.
There we go. I just wanted to show the council, we had a little discussion about impact fees and the little situation we had with Dollar Tree up there. And so the mayor said, why don't we put together a spreadsheet that shows, once we figure out what the store is, we can take that and then enter in some figures, and it basically pops the impact fee out at the bottom. And so we're going to have Brock pull this up and we'll kind of explain it to you.
Christelle, where'd you? In this one?
And I and Christelle worked on this. They gave her the information and she put the spreadsheet together and did a really good job. So when you see her, thank her, would you? Oh, there she is. Okay. So you want to explain this, Christelle? I mean, you want to do it? I can do it, but
I just kind of made this so we could easily calculate all the fees instead of like not really knowing. So on the yellow cells, on the top one, you just drop down and select what type of commercial building. Right now it's on Ace Hardware. I put it on Ace
Tire
Hardware.
store.
You could do the Dollar Tree or something. Tire store. Okay, so then drop down on that first yellow one, select the commercial permit category on the top left.
Yeah, I got
Yeah, he
tire
did that.
store.
Okay, and then, oh, you're on Tire Store. I'm on the same building, same sheet. And then you'll type in the square footage. And then they'll have responsibility for selecting what water connection they want. So if they want the 1 inch, then it will automatically change the fees and the water impact. And then same with the sewer. And then there's a lot of options for electrical. And then that changes the impact and the connect for that. And then the street impact is based off of the permit category. So that automatically calculated from that. And then parks and trails. If you want to go to the bottom on the different tabs, water, sewer, power, it breaks it out. So the total for that one, after you fill in all the yellow selections, was the 116, 965. And if they want to put in their own valuation, they can at the top.
Okay, very cool.
All the different varieties of this is on the street impact fee, so.
Yeah.
Options of
So we went back to Steve and asked him to put in some other categories that we knew, could possibly come to our community and put them in there. Just to let the council know, these numbers come right out of a book that has been engineered. I mean, it's been proven, and it's I don't know what you'd call it. It's a spec that all engineers use when they put their impact fees together. And so it's been studied, and depending on what store or whatever it might be, you pick it, and it tells you the number of trips that on an average, that's what they actually do. And so anyway, you can see there that some of those categories, it's hard for staff to pick really which category for sure. Some of them are really simple. Some of them are a little bit questionable. You could take Ace Hardware, for instance. It says Ace Hardware, what would you say that store is? We have a hardware painting category, but we also have a home improvement category. But after home improvement, it says box store or big store, superstore. And we know it's not that, but we do know that it does do some home improvement in their store, and they also do hardware and paint.
And apparel now.
And apparel. Now they do apparel. So, you look at those categories and in which one you choose, so.
So is there guidance on what gets used?
Well.
That way it's
Usually what we've done in the past, we've picked a category that we feel it matches and gone with it.
This is where I think we need to visit, because I guess my question is, why the disparity? So let's take Hirsch for one, for bucks there. If it's a hardware paint store, it's 1,600 per 1,000 square feet. So it's 10,000 square foot store is 16,000. If it's a variety store, it's 130,000. based on those,
It's-
based on that chart.
It's all based on trips, man. So what they've done is they've took a variety store. For instance, Dollar Tree would say they're a variety store. Their company told us that they would be designated as a variety store. Well, we didn't even designate them as a variety store. We designated them as a, what do we call them?
Code 820, it's General Commercial Shopping Center.
Yeah.
They're 820.
And we didn't know quite where to put them, you know? So when we come back to variety, if we'd have put them a variety, they'd have been a lot higher because
And that's what I'm looking at.
it's a proven fact that they have more trips. It's all driven by trips, by vehicles that come to the store. And so, you know, that's how it's done.
And you should be able to look at this. This is what, talking about the one night when I think I confused some. If you look at this, the column M, effective trip ends per unit, that's taken factors into it, whether they are primary trips or they're like secondary trips, and they take a whole factor and they, as you know, passerby trip, diverted trip. So originally it started like variety stores starts at 63.47 trips. The effective end is 34.96. You should, if math is right, take 34.96 times 400, should get you that 13,980. Because effectively our impact fee per trip is $400.
St. George uses the exact same program. Their number is different. You know, our numbers is $400. Their numbers, I'm sure, a lot lower per 1,000 square feet. And so it just depends on, you know, what's going on in each individual city, whether they did a bridge or they've done 5 bridges or their bridges have been installed and they don't have a lot of roads they're building. They don't have a lot of traffic signals they're putting in. Their master plan, their projects in their master plan is not as comprehensive as ours. They, you know, they're an older city, so their number's going to be a lot lower,
And growth,
depending on what they need.
growth potential.
Yeah.
Well, and the number on the far right is the maximum eligible. I think that's, again, I'm going to argue a little bit on behalf of the retailer going, are we looking to encourage retail sales in the city? I would, as a taxpayer, I would say absolutely. Because that's, I mean, if we wanted to say what Harmon's has brought in, what Dollar Tree's going to bring in, what Buck's Ace, you know, those tax revenues to the cities are going to be in the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars every single year. That I would imagine as a council, we could say, look, we know we need to pay for those bridges and pay for those crossings. But if that apparel store has to come in and pay $150,000 for their impact fee, plus the land development cost, plus is that going to be a deterrent for that apparel store that's $10,000 per 1,000 square feet? I think that's for a discussion for another day. This is awesome. The spreadsheet's fantastic. I think that's where I'm just repeating myself. That's when I'm looking at retail sales. Yeah, I'd love to see more retailers. I don't, you know, I know what we paid for Bahama Bucks for those, you know, we paid $75,000, $80,000 for 2 drive-throughs on a 6,000 square foot building for a street impact.
For St. George.
For St. George. And so,
Yeah.
you know, drive-through and fast food, I think were their highest number. But that's where I get nervous when I look at, you know, a paint store versus a variety store versus a clothing retailer. There's a big disparity in that. And at the end of the day, I would love to see those sales tax dollars, which are 50% come to our city. So.
Just a comment. I don't know what St. George is doing now, but 10 years ago on their impact fees, they came up with a 70%. They would go through this calculation and then assess 70% of that. And that was a number they just came up with, kind of saying, well, they have some benefits like sales tax, et cetera. So we're not going to charge that full amount. And you know, whether they're still continuing with that or continuing with that practice, I don't know. But, you know, they did that, and I think cities can do that. You know, if you say, here's what we could charge, but we're going to do something else.
I know that they did it in their industrial zone too with bonuses. If you employ 15, 20 people, you got a cut in your impact fee. It depended on what you're bringing into the community. So that there is some bonuses that we could think about and maybe apply for those commercial retail spaces.
I think you're right, Ben. I mean, you know, we could have ended up with an office building on that piece of ground and you wouldn't get anything
And
other
that's,
than,
I was just gonna,
other than what the people spend when they go over to Harmon's. You know, you wouldn't get a dime. And so, you know, there's no reason to not look at an incentive, I guess, if that, it's up to the council, whatever you want to do. But these are the guidelines that every city uses. It's similar.
So I have a question. We've added additional categories then, correct, to the spreadsheet? That's what the blue is, I'm assuming?
The categories right there at the first.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Do we have to redo, and I don't know if it's a question for you or Brock, do we have to redo our report that we had Steve do that
Our
we
impact fee
approved?
study.
Uh-huh.
No.
In order to add it, quit.
No, it's all still functions off that $400 per ERU or per 1,000 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, so the number stays the same. You just determines on what the city council wants to do. And that's why you chose the $400 is because that's what you know, we knew we had to build. We got to build the projects in the city.
so is there a office space on there? These are your services here. I mean, if you scroll up just to pull up, what do we have? Office buildings, so 39. So this is where a 10,000 square foot office building's $39,000 based on that. A 10,000 square foot retailer based on those is going to be $100,000 on average, whether it's, and yet and this is exactly what you just said. I'm just trying to say that in perspective that we're going to charge $70,000 more to a retailer that's going to literally bring revenue to the city. So that's where I think a discussions for down the road. Again, we need to pay for the roads and bridges. If there was, you know, that discussion, my recommendation would be, okay, if it was a 70% rule or whatever it was, that what was taken out of the street impact or the others gets allocated to those departments up to that number. So, you know, we're not pulling from parks and roads and, you know, fire and police. So that's all.
Yeah, but the impact fees are only for new projects, new growth. They're not for the maintenance, which is where the sales tax come. If you don't have the impact fees to pay for the new projects, those things, then you end up pulling from your general fund, which comes from your parks, your public safety, those things. That's where you're gonna end up having to pull funds from to pay for those projects. So it's a balance of trying to.
But if you motivated those retailers to get in here 5 years sooner, you'd pay for that 10 times. I mean, if we took $30,000 out of a retailer, but we were collecting $100,000 a year from them in sales tax revenue, even if you have to allocate some of that out of the general fund, because that's where it's going, your sales tax goes to the general fund, doesn't it?
Mhm.
So, you know, if you increased what went to the general fund, I would imagine you could reallocate those funds where needed. You're not actually pulling it out of parks and you're actually increasing that quicker. So that's all, like I said, that's my.
Well, we can talk about this more in a work meeting and if you'd like, but I really like this spreadsheet. It helps us because we can just punch in the numbers and there you go. You know, it gives them a good number. So
It's awesome. Christelle, good work. I know this was all you, so we know where this came from. Great work.
great
Way
work.
to make Jack look good. So
Just maybe a quick note on the power side. We did hit a new peak. I don't think I mentioned that to you guys, but we hit over 19 megawatts this summer, which is about 3 megawatts higher than we were last year. So it was a hot year.
Carbon-free project, I'll find out tomorrow where we're at on that, if we're still moving forward. As you've heard, Lehigh and Logan dropped out of the project, but as far as I'm aware, I haven't heard of any others that have dropped out. It sounds like most still want to stay in. So we'll see.
Do we have to have a conversation or a vote on that prior to the, no?
We don't. If we don't change our entitlement, we keep our entitlement share that what it is, then we don't have to bring it back.
Okay.
And from what I get from council is that we want to keep moving forward. It's a good project. Like I told Denny today, I don't know that a lot of managers are looking at what could actually happen to them in the future, 20 years, 15 years down the road. If we don't have a resource to pick up for the load and the growth that we're getting, and there's not a lot of resource out there, the only thing that a city can do is go to the market. And the market could be crazy. Back in the Enron days, we were up at $340 a megawatt hour, which is 34 cents a kilowatt hour. And we were eating that, and we were only charging our customers 8 cents a kilowatt hour. So, it can change. It could go up to $20 all summer long or $30 all summer long. And we're only charging, 8 cents. And so, but yet it would be costing us, $30. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we could lose, $250,000 up to $400,000 before we get out of this project. But if you look into the future, if we don't have something, we could lose a lot more than that. I mean, that's nothing compared to what we could lose. I think we have to be leaders. If the guys hadn't have stood up years ago when they built IPP and the Hunter plant, and they had a lot of problems with the contracts, and they didn't have full prescription, and these guys fought and fought and fought through it and got good contracts, and they made it through it. And they found people California purchased a lot of the power. And we've been living off of those 2 coal-fired plants for 30-something years. And the Hunter project, the bonds have been paid for, and power costs are really low, out of that plant. And those plants are going away. That's the other problem. These coal-fired plants are getting shut down, and there's got to be something else there. And we already have a lot of gas. We've got gas in Payson. We've got gas out here at our generators, natural gas. When gas went up to $14 a decatherm, we couldn't afford to run them. So, you just don't know what the gas market's going to do in the future. So if we can get something that we know is stable, like coal or this carbon-free project, nuclear project, and we know that it's going to be our cost for the next 30 or 40 years, and then the plant could be approved again for another 40 years, and we could have that plant for 80 years, that Santa Clara City residents would be able to get that resource. So anyway, I say we stick in until we see. If a lot of people drop out, we'll have to drop out because it's going to it'd be too expensive. So anyway.
Yeah, we don't want to run into where California's at with get rid of all your cheap fuel and then realize you don't have enough power to power. So hopefully
You can do what they're doing and have rolling brown.
Exactly. And this is a good project. I would hope cities, and it's because it is sustainable, it's clean, it's long term. So
They were talking to cities on the West Coast, if I remember right from last time, right?
Yes, they are, and they've got some. I think now that we finally got all the contracts together, so that's why I don't understand why I can see Logan dropping out, because they're so environmental. They got a lot of people up there that are just totally against nuclear power. But Lehigh, I don't understand, because we're not losing anything yet, and why not stay in until we know whether or not we're going to get enough prescription, or at least get through this next phase and we get all the contracts together, so that Doug and those guys can go out and sell it. Now that we've got the contracts together, we got something that we can give them. It's a real project, but up to now, it hasn't been a real project other than, getting to this point.
And there's big pushback on any carbon emitters. So natural gas, you've got cities in California that have banned natural gas into homes. So there's going to be a demand on clean electricity that's sustainable. And this is it. And so,
Yeah.
Well, and most of California is paying 22 cents a kilowatt. That's a low end.
they're paying 60 in the peak.
Yeah.
And people that just built with us, that's what they paid
Yeah.
when it peaked. They like 8.5 or whatever we are. I tell them that, they're like, that's it?
Anyway, that's probably the biggest thing I had, just to let you know where we're at on that. We did get all our meters installed. Everything's in. We've got a few little ones here and there, and we're still working on a couple glitches, but Sherry's loving it. So much easier for her, and my guys we've saved so much time because now we're not going out and doing all those rereads when guys are actually being able to do other work. So thank you very much for that.
The new utility bills are fabulous.
Are they?
I like
Yeah, they're
them.
getting prettier.
They're getting
Yeah.
better.
And they're real,
Have
they
you
have a
seen them,
lot of
Jack?
information and they're good to read.
Okay. I know they've been working on it. So
They're
did you finally get one that's better than the last one, Jarrett?
Yes.
Okay. Great.
They're awesome.
Super.
Whoever-
Okay.
Yeah, and then Jack, you didn't say you were quoted in a KSL article about the,
Does he
Carbon
know he
free-
was quoted?
yeah, did you know you were quoted in a KSL article? I was reading through it, I was like, oh wait, that says Jack Taylor.
It was right
That's
after your
us.
surgery.
I'll say Jack
Might
does
have been
not
on.
know.
Who did this? I know a reporter called me, and which paper was
It
it?
was KSL, KSL.com.
Oh, was it KSL?
Yeah, just a
Okay.
couple days ago.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. I hope I said something correct.
Oh yeah, it all sounded good. I looked through it. So.
Okay.
And I even saw a New York Times editorial about the new scale project. So it's going coast to coast now and an interest in it. So
We're still waiting for the DOE funding. We can't do the project without the DOE funding. And, it takes some time to get that paperwork done, to get the money to us. And so we've been waiting on them. In the last meeting last week, I told them, I don't care if we have to wait another month and a half. It's stupid to shut the project down or say we're done with it. Let's just kind of slow things down as much as we can and wait until we get that DOE money and move forward. And so we'll hear more tomorrow.
okay.
Okay.
We'll look forward to that for sure. All right, very good. Well, I think that's all for our reports. Do we need an executive session? That's a no. Okay, I just need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion by Ben, second by Lana. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?